Prime Minister announces revised COVID-19 containment measures, gets first-hand view of Westmoreland's state of public emergency, and tours Norwegian research ship. You're watching Jamaica House Weekly.
What is clearly having the impact on transmission would be the measures that we have put in place, the same measures that people cuss about, that people quarrel about, the same curfews, the same no movement Sundays and lockdowns. Those are the measures that have worked.
And so, Prime Minister Andrew Holness announced extended but relaxed COVID-19 containment measures to cover November 18 to December 9, among them pushing back curfew hours to 9 o'clock nightly until 5 a.m. the following day. Subject to the size of the venue, gatherings at places of worship, weddings, and annual general meetings have been increased to allow a maximum of 100 persons. Events hosted by public bodies will remain at 50 for fully vaccinated individuals. Burials and funerals can now accommodate 20 persons, but the public gathering limit remains at 10.
In relation to infirmaries, we have heard the calls to allow for new admissions as well as family visits. We understand the hardship, and Cabinet will consider potential changes to the protocols to be announced within the next set of revisions in early December.
In the meantime, the island's controlled entry program has been tweaked for the 3-week period. A negative PCR or antigen test is still required for travel to Jamaica. Fully vaccinated travelers with a negative PCR test will not be required to quarantine, but those with a negative antigen test and who have been fully vaccinated must quarantine for 8 days. Unvaccinated travelers with a negative PCR or antigen test are required to quarantine for 14 days.
Just to be clear, if you didn't take a PCR test as your pre-entry test, then when you come to Jamaica, you are under the quarantine rule. So if you are unvaccinated, you have to spend 14 days. If you are vaccinated, right, you can take the PCR test and be released. Or if you don't take the PCR test, you would have to wait 8 days. COVID-19 has evolved from a pandemic to being endemic. The highly transmissible nature of the Delta variant and ongoing vaccine hesitancy have made the goal of zero COVID-19 virtually unachievable. The SARS-CoV-2 virus is here to stay.
As a result, Mr. Holness says the measures will act as a controlled, gradual approach towards getting the economy to full productivity. In the short to medium term, measures are in place to control a possible 4th wave of COVID-19. The Prime Minister says this is in anticipation of an increase in cases after the Christmas period, as well as the possibility of outbreaks in other countries reaching our shores. He is urging personal responsibility and getting vaccinated to minimize or prevent that 4th wave.
Whether or not we experience a 4th wave and how significant it may be depends on us. The only sustainable way out of this pandemic is personal responsibility on the part of all our citizens. Personal responsibility to follow the infection prevention and control protocols, wearing your mask, sanitizing, social distancing, and ultimately, the personal responsibility for taking the vaccine.
Up to midday on November 22, 1,078,932 doses of vaccines have been administered. Of that number, 494,390 doses were to fully vaccinate persons. On Thursday, the Prime Minister was in Westmoreland. He was there to observe face-to-face operations at approved schools, as well as the vaccination program for schools and the public in general.
I'm here also to view firsthand the work of the security forces in supervising the state of public emergency here and ensuring that our citizens have the requisite level of security and safety that they deserve as citizens of the country.
The parish is among 7 police divisions that are currently under a state of public emergency due to their high crime rate. Since the start of the year, 111 murders have been committed in Westmoreland. Mr. Holness also visited Mabel Forbes, the mother of police constable trainee Devon Brown, who was slain on November 17. The Prime Minister informed the grieving mom that 2 men had been taken into custody and 2 others were being sought in relation to the murder. He added that investigations continued to bring the perpetrators to justice. And while in Westmoreland, the Prime Minister delivered tablets to students in the parish.
And so we're making an appeal to parents to please approve the vaccination of your children so that we can have a return to face-to-face learning in secondary schools. For primary schools, however, the children will be allowed to come back to school without being vaccinated. What that means is that teachers should seek to protect themselves by being vaccinated. The other encouragement that I would make is to the parents, and I see many parents here today. You yourself should get vaccinated. If you have persons in your household that have comorbidities, diabetes, hypertension, respiratory illnesses, obesity, you should get vaccinated, particularly when your children are coming back to school. And if you have members of your household who are older, 60 and older, they should get vaccinated as well.
Back in Kingston Friday, the Prime Minister was on hand to launch the Coding in Schools program being initiated by the Education Ministry. 400,000 students from grade 1 to 13 stand to benefit from the initiative that will be implemented in public schools across the island. 15,000 teachers will also be impacted.
Jamaica already has the building blocks to become the Silicon Valley of the region, such as proximity to the largest market in the world. We have creative, imaginative, and a young population. And we now need to turn this into an asset. We need the builders, the coders. They are the builders of the digital society.
Before his trip to Westmoreland, Prime Minister Holness toured a marine and scientific research training vessel from Norway. The vessel was docked at Port Royal as part of its One Ocean expedition. It's aimed at raising awareness and sharing knowledge on how ocean health can mitigate the adverse effects of climate change while ensuring a sustainable future for all.
Your mission could be considered as a critical mission for the sustainability of our oceans. We need to have far more knowledge of the ocean than we currently do. And we need to have even greater surveillance to measure and analyze changes in our oceans.
And that's it for Jamaica House Weekly. Be sure to join us next time for more of the news stories coming out of the office of the Prime Minister.